Hello, I've been wanting to make a video for a little while now about some of the language about dyslexia and how it can sometimes make conversations more difficult. So recently I've struggled to explain some of my thoughts about dyslexia to people, not because they've been unwilling to listen or lack of knowledge about it on my part, but because, kind of ironically, the language surrounding it is completely inadequate to get certain points about it across directly. And this isn't just me either. I've seen some fairly serious academic discussions kind of bogged down in these kind of problems, as well as these problems, I believe, fueling a lot of the flame wars you see in various comment sections. So one of the biggest confusions, I think, is that the term dyslexia is kind of being used to describe two different, if similar, things now. For now I'm just going to call these dyslexia A and dyslexia B. So the two different ways I see dyslexia being used, defining as for dyslexia A, which is the original and more literally correct meaning of it. It's a difficulty of language, finding word-based tasks, especially reading and spelling, significantly more difficult than would be expected given one's level of intelligence and eyesight and things. Whereas dyslexia B is a kind of wider neurological concept for which dyslexias become a kind of shorthand, and certainly in the dyslexia community at least is more how the word is now more commonly used, I think. So this is basically a different type of brain architecture or neurotype, keeping up with buzzwords, with a literal different layout of brain cells in bits of the brain, and this results in certain learning styles and typically results in a particular set of strengths and weaknesses, with some of those weaknesses being language. So does everyone with dyslexia A have dyslexia B? No, because whilst one effect of dyslexia B, the neurotype, is to cause difficulty with language, there are numerous other reasons why this might be the case. Just natural variation in talents in people with without this neurotype. Some of them are just not that good at language, which would also fall into this category of dyslexia A, or all kinds of other conditions which might not have anything to do with neurotype, depending on your definition of dyslexia. Irlen syndrome, for example, is sometimes misdiagnosed as being dyslexic, or even like very particular brain damage could cause this kind of dyslexia. Does everyone with dyslexia B have dyslexia A? Also no, because whilst reading and spelling are some of the most common weaknesses for this neurotype, sometimes though the weaknesses show up elsewhere. Sometimes people are just so smart that even though it may be their greatest weakness, they're still pretty good with language, and others are just so good at working around these problems, finding various tricks to either kind of get out of situations or kind of ways to use different bits of their brain and different ways of thinking to get out of their difficulty in spelling, that it kind of goes unnoticed as well. So you can see these are two quite different things, but they're kind of having the same word used for them, which is a lot of what's causing confusion in the subject of dyslexia study, I think. So it seems to me that viewing these two distinctly could clear up quite a lot. For example, the sometimes fierce "should dyslexia be cured if possible" arguments I've seen on Facebook, for example, are kind of obsolete, because, well, if everyone can just agree that it depends on the definition of dyslexia you're using, then I don't think anyone would want, with everything else being equal, to have dyslexia A, difficulty in spelling, but also most people would not want to get rid of dyslexia B, completely changing their neurotype, their set of strengths and weaknesses, which has defined who they are, and wouldn't want to kind of become normal and become more average across the board. So I don't follow the conversation around autism anywhere near as closely as I do that around dyslexia, since there's no one particularly close to me who's autistic. But from snippets I've seen from that community, it seems as if this is starting to happen there, with people often talking about an autistic brain type, which, whilst it has many positives and negatives associated with it, isn't in itself overall a bad thing. And then there also being various disabilities which are a lot more common in that brain type, but those not being the same thing. This seems to have not only helped the kind of public conversation around the subject become a bit more clear, but also I think is an important step in finding the proper ways to tackle and fix these disabilities, rather than trying to find ways to just get rid of this whole kind of brain thinking style that is autism, which is almost certainly impossible, and also a lot of people wouldn't want as well. So I believe a similar shift in the way we talk about dyslexia is well overdue, and fair, it is starting to happen, with many people talking about their dyslexic kind of processing style and not wanting to change that for the world, despite obviously wanting to spell and read better if they could. The difficulty is that we still have the same word for both these different concepts of dyslexia, which makes it confusing at best, and at worst can actually can't hold back public discussion and finding ways to tackle the difficulties. So that's it, rant over. Just want to try and get a conversation started on how we discuss dyslexia, and if there are less confusing terms we should be adopting. Personally, in my head, I've been calling dyslexia B eusyndic for a while. It's doesn't quite slip off the tongue, but then neither does dyslexia until you're used to saying it a lot. I'll go over how exactly I got to thinking of it as that word in a separate video, but basically it means well connected type, a brain type, and one that thinks in terms of connections between things and shapes and patterns, rather than very particular details such as you have to try and think of when you're doing spelling. Yeah, I would love comments on this. If you're dyslexic and have thoughts, if you have any kind of linguistic thoughts on how you should be describing things. Also, if you're autistic or involved in the autistic discussion in any way, and I would like to see whether you think that's an accurate description of the discussion that I included. And okay, thanks for watching. Bye.